What are you really afraid of? Are you afraid of the dark? Are you afraid of death? Being afraid of the dark is something we take for granted, right? There's still parts of the world where they don't have power, and living in the Western world, I'm pretty honored to have it. I have street lights to protect myself. I have a home I can keep heated. I have all these different things I can run off electricity, but it reminds me of this time they talk about the turn of the century, about the late 1800s. There was a guy who said, "There's nothing left to invent. Nothing can be invented. It's over." And look at how much has been invented since then. Then in the 80s, that was repeated again, and there has been a decline, other than computer production, in inventions, but not long term. The effect of art creations has been immense. But we ask ourselves about technology and all the different things that's really helped us in life, and there's nothing more than electricity and power and light that has changed us, so drastically, and been able to have entire cities that are lit up. It's a pretty amazing feat. It really is. And just to think, there was a time when people really considered, that the future was over, that there was nothing left to invent, The Industrial Revolution happened, and then after that we had the computer revolution. And it's my view and my hope that we'll have a spiritual awakening, be able to light a light in that tunnel of darkness that encompasses all of our minds all the time. That blanket of mystery that we're all surrounded by, as well as the adversity that we face with the people that don't seem to understand that there's something more to life than waking up and going to work and coming home and going to bed. I'm still shocked that there are people in this day and age that live that way. I'm still shocked that there are people who don't consider their source. And I'm even more shocked by the people who have considered it and who have given up on it and said, well, it's not to know, it doesn't matter, we're here, take what you can get and get out. That's a pathetic view, the materialist view of life. I like to entertain all notions and all standpoints on what's important, for different people, but that view, the materialist view, is just, it doesn't have any place, other than to the extent of keeping you alive. And one might argue that there are incentives of gain that move us forward as a society, that if we didn't have people pushing us forward with money or holding the carrot in front of us, that people probably wouldn't make discoveries. And I can honestly say I don't think that's true either. I don't think a lot of people do things as much for the notoriety nor for the money, but I think a lot of people do things to be human and to be a good person. And it's pretty irrelevant where that comes from. It doesn't matter if it's something that, whether moral values are something that are spiritual, or whether they're something that are just a mental impression from ancient times. And science is trying hard to prove that that's the case, so then we can discard our emotions and vibes and intuition as just merely freak mind tricks. But those of us out here who have lived real life know better than that. Those of us out there who have experienced life and who have really lived and who have lit a candle within our own lives, we know that that's bullshit, because our intuition has led us to some great places and has saved us from some harsh disasters. Intuition is given to us regardless of the reason or the source. It is given to us to help us better ourselves. And I say intuition because it's really all we have to go by. And a lot of folks would say, they scoff and say, oh, well, you're following your heart, that's not going to lead you anywhere. Well, it might not, but if your heart is true, if you're not fooling yourself, if you're not saying that I'm going to follow my heart but I want money, or I want to follow my heart but I want fame, it's about following your heart and knowing that you want the universe to tell you what's the best for you and for the world around you. And it's not something that you're consciously aware of. It's not something that's going to be spoken to you. Those people who say that they spoke to God, I discount them almost immediately, just because I don't, when you really understand things, they don't come through any type of spoken word, any language. When you hear languages and you hear voices, they're usually coming from your own mind, your own subconscious. Excuse me. Truth comes in symbolism. Truth comes in experience. And it's not something that can be expressed or shared, and that's what's so beautiful about it. That's what's so beautiful about understanding life, is that the more you learn about it, the more you realize you can't convey that to people who haven't experienced that. And this is why so many societies have had degrees, like the degrees of Freemasonry, not to, necessarily, make a person wait, but more to initiate a person into a way of thinking, so they can reprogram their mind to a certain extent to accept the next truth. And you can stack up those truths like a deck of cards, but you have to lay the heavy ones out at the bottom. You have to, they're like a deck of weighed cards, and you have to make sure that the bottom foundation is strong. And in other words, you can't just be passed information through any type of reading and expect to understand it until you've lived to that experience level. Perhaps there is something deeper. Perhaps us as humans, maybe we have lived multiple lives. Maybe we do reincarnate. And if so, then maybe we do carry on some of these experiences from our previous lives. I would think that the only reason I would entertain a notion such as reincarnation is the idea that people are vary so widely in not just their intellect, but their willingness to be civil. And a lot of it has to do with exposure to the world around us, but a lot of it has to do with just ignorance and choice to not pay attention to what's going on. And it makes one wonder if there really are people in the world who are of a higher stature and intellect, and then it gets into separation, and the whole idea is unity. So we have this idea that people need to be united, and it doesn't matter, we need to help one another, and the smart people help the not so smart people, and the hard workers help the people who can't lift so much. And in the idea of intellect, you wonder, what makes people tick? Why do people ignore the truths that are around them? So it's an interesting concept, and one we need to ponder further. Namaste, everybody. Light a candle.